So anyway, as far as the 12 men that I had to kill in self-defense because I was an autistic minor, I think I was 13, 14 years old, something like that. My father and I were surrounded by Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Epstein, and we all now know we didn't know who Epstein was. I didn't know who Epstein was at the time. I'm not good with names. I was just a kid. I did not, at 13-year-old, traumatized, a retard, basically, mongrel child, didn't go hunt down full-grown men who were murderers and rapists and child sex traffickers who were out abducting women and children and raping them and killing them, and they were high as fuck. Many of them, I don't know what exactly their jobs were, but they were basically, they were abducting kids from out of state, abducting women. They came after me because my father was trying to intervene in lynchings. He's mandated to do that. He's special forces. He's counterterrorism. He's trained, and so am I, trained to convert liabilities into assets. So he's trying to stop lynchings, but the problem was when you have narcissistic personality disorder and everybody high as hell on drugs and coke, you don't get anywhere. Hell, Neil Preston and Eric Adams are sober as church mice, and nobody, not SDNY, not Jack Smith, not Fonnie Willis, nobody can get anywhere with him. Cuomo, sober as a church mouse, at least as far as chemicals were concerned. He's not sober, he's on a dry drunk. But point is, chemicals really have absolutely little or nothing to do with it. It all boils down to narcissistic personality disorder, sense of entitlement, whether it's because you're male, because you're white, or because you're a white male, whatever. Thump your Bible and pervert it. Oh, I'm entitled because I'm a straight male. I'm entitled because I'm a straight woman, regardless of your color or race. Or even religion. Any religion can do that. I don't know for a fact that Muslims are abusive to their women. That's certainly what they've told us. That may all be bullshit. I don't know. But I do remember reading a book on Abraham Lincoln that said women know a form of slavery that no man will ever know, regardless of his race or color. I mean, Diddy's a good example of that. Of course, Diddy was bisexual, but that had absolutely nothing to do. He's just a horrific human being. Whether he was straight or gay, black or white, he's just a prick. Same with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a piece of shit because he was Jewish. The Jewish or the black or the gay, that's incidental. You're either a decent human being or you're not. Anyway, the 12 men that I had to put down, they are buried next to their hundreds, if not thousands, of murder victims. Women and children and men that they raped and killed. Some are thrown down old wells. Some are buried in very deep graves that are more than 6 foot deep because remember, this is Missouri, this is the Great Plains, this is all farmland and missile silos. And then the Ozark Mountains. Columbia, Missouri actually did qualify as it's the outer edge of the Ozark Mountains, but you go look at those hills, their hills and their streets are, riding a bike or jogging up and down those hills is absolutely impossible. There's a lot of steep hills in Burlington, but it's nothing like Columbia, Missouri. So point is, there's lots of woodlands. Not just, I mean, it was pretty much everywhere. All farmland has woodlands. Even around here, there's plenty of farms. There's plenty of secluded woodland areas. And not everybody was buried in the woods. There was also the Missouri River, Lake of the Ozarks, Lake Truman, and any number of other rivers and streams. There was, I mean, so many places to get rid of a body. They don't necessarily have to be buried in unmarked graves, though there's plenty of that. It really depended on what was going down. But with the men that I killed, the Sheriff Wally George, who's now a convicted felon who has served 9 months in prison, of course, they only went after him for the crimes that he did all by himself. They didn't go after him for the crimes that he committed with everybody else. That was them sending a warning shot across his bow because they knew I was in town. Interesting how it happened, how they decided to charge him while I was there talking about all of this. Specifically with Darla Munoz Natolola, who was also part of those murders. She was actually used by the bastards to fuck with me, to try to convince me that it was my father doing this to me. So what these men were, the men that I killed, they brutally raped me and then blamed it on my father. Same thing they're doing now. They're committing all these crimes and having, standing up and filing out, oh, this is political hit job, this is Brady violations, and having pieces of shit like Peter Santanoa on that broad he had on his channel. Oh, it's all Sarah George. She's the reason. And this new mayor. They're basically committing crimes and then blaming it on anybody who has them under investigation for it. So you're basically nullifying the jury for me. You're basically making my case for why I had to kill those men back in the early 80s. We had no clue. See, now, fast forward to 2024, now what happened back then is starting to make sense. And now you're doing it to Jack Smith, you're doing it to Judge Mershon, you're doing it to Prosecutor Weiss, Prosecutor Herr, Bernie Sanders, Jamal Bowman. You're accusing the SDNY prosecutor. You're going after Governor Hochul. I mean, it's just anybody who won't be a part of your shit. You went after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in every way. Smear campaigns. And you're always accusing everybody else. Those investigating you of what you're doing. So anyway, those men were just Neil Preston's, Casper Weimer. I don't know that they were politicians. I don't know if they were licensed peace officers. I really don't know what their professions were. But basically, they committed crimes against me, blamed it on my father because my father had me recording video and audio recording them raping and murdering women, children, and families. And then sometimes they got buried in 6-foot deep graves. And the reason for that was because this is farmland. And a lot of the farmers, they had their grandkids and they didn't want some coyote dragging an arm or a hand or a human foot out into the field where one of their grandkids that's out there working the field for harvest or getting ready to plant finds a fucking human hand. I mean, come on. The whole point of the deep burials was to prevent wildlife from even vultures and snakes and I guess anything, crows, whatever. It had to be, and from what I understand, those remains are probably mummified because they're so deep. So let's say some prosecutor decides to be malicious and come after me. Well, they got to find the bodies first. And those men are buried amongst all of their murder victims. So let's say somebody, I have no idea where property lines start, who owned the property. Let's say somebody did come forward and say, well, I know a whereabouts where they might be. Let's say my father can remember. let's say they get the whereabouts of what's on this piece of property and it's near this country road and that, and then you got to turn here and you go down to mile marker such and such, and it's that patch of woods right there next to a pond. So they get the ground x-ray machinery out there, and guess what? They're going to find skeletons and remains of tiny kids, adults, women. They're going to find thousands, hundreds, and thousands. Now, all those 12 men aren't buried in the same area. I don't remember exactly where they're at. Again, I didn't pay attention to that. We went out there at night. I had no idea where we were going. When I got put in the car or the truck and we started driving, we're just going to go out for a drive. And the next thing I know, we're pulling up and there's a bunch of headlights and there's Wally George and Police Chief Jim Zimmerman and his wife, who was a police officer, and Lynn Alexander, Robbie Ravenhill. Who was the judge? Snyder? I don't remember all of their names, but Judge Busker. They were all out there, and then the men who raped me were tied to trees. And basically, what those men, the teachers and the police, were telling my father that I told them that he did it. Well, Heather told us you did it. That's what they told my father. I never told them my father did that. So they lied to my father, telling them that I said he raped me when it was actually them doing the raping, and then lying and saying that. So that's why he had to get us all out there together. And by the time they got done lying and threatening me, the horrible things that they did and all the murders they committed, there was nothing else we could do. Because if they were allowed to live, they would have been a threat to the ongoing investigation. You'll have to ask him all those details. I don't know. I didn't understand politics. I didn't understand. I was a teenager. All I knew was I couldn't live my life. I was getting raped. I was getting drugged. I was getting punished by my parents, who said I was lying on them, and I never said the things that they were being, just like my medical records today. Says that I claim my father sexually abused me, like as in he actually put his hands on me and physically molested me. Was he a sexual abuser? Yes, because he's a gay-bashing, patriarchal sack of shit. But that's not the same as an actual pedophile who puts their hands on a kid. That's pedophilia. And like Darla Munoz and her husband absolutely sexually abused their kids. I recorded Rainey threatening me, basically saying it was okay for her and her parents to murder me because I'm a queer. That means Rainey's been sexually abused. I recorded Folly Natolawai, Darla's husband, jumping down their 16-year-old disabled son's throat because he put lotion on the. You a fucking girl, you putting lotion on your elbows? It was winter. His elbows were ashy. And I mean, Folly went on and on and on.